give everyone just a short warning to...
We're going to get started in about 30 seconds, so if you could, please take your seats. And if you have electronic devices with you that you've not already turned off ringers, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Gotta turn mine off. I'm going to set this down over here. Hey, Diane, can I put that on there? Sure. Thank you. And you know what, man? I'm going to go this way. It doesn't be in the way.
Oh, all right, sounds good.
Okay.
All right. My name is Meg Pawkin, and I'm the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Geauga. And to my right is Shelley Lewis, who is our President. I want to welcome you all. We really appreciate you coming out to participate in the democratic process. So that's why we're all here. We're here to hear from the candidates before our primary election coming up. So again, welcome from us, from the board, from our members, from our teams who are here working. We're going to go ahead and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get into the meat of things, I want to thank the Bainbridge Geauga Public Library for hosting us this evening. It's a rare space in the county that offers us such nice facilities for videotaping and for having the space and the parking, and so we want to thank them. They put work into this. We want to thank the Chagrin Valley Times for being our publishing supporter for our printed voter guide, which I'm sure many of you have received. If you don't get the Chagrin Valley Times, there are free copies available, usually here in the library and at various other locations, and we have some available in the back of the room that you can take before you leave. Geauga Times Courier has also been helpful, along with your local good news. We want to thank the candidates for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here to share their views with you, the voters. And by making themselves available, they're helping with transparency and education of voters. We have a lot of league volunteers who help out here. Rachel Hazelwood and her team have run these candidate forums for 2 years now, and they've done a beautiful job. We have a whole team of volunteers. We have question screeners, we have greeters, we have the people who set up the room and do all the things. We're all volunteers, and we do this because we believe in democracy. You know, we're all voters as well, but we take the voter hat off and come in here as nonpartisan folks to serve the public, to bring the candidates to you so that you can be educated and make choices that align with your views and your values. So I want to thank all of our league volunteers. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the roles of everyone this evening. Oh, we also want to let you all know that we have professional live streaming to our YouTube channel that's provided by the video department in Chardon. And you can find the video later at lwvgeauga.org or at our YouTube channel. So if you want to replay, or as a candidate, if you want to go back and hear what everyone else said, that's a great opportunity for you to do that. Candidates, your role is to present your qualifications, your platform, and your concerns to our community. We want to hear your ideas to serve constituents. Discussions should pertain to the office you are seeking, so things that are relevant to your role in that office. Policy differences, we want to hear them. What we'd like to hear is you stating what your policy preferences are and what your priorities are. We'd like to see them framed as I statements wherever possible. Our moderator has discretion to redirect conversations and speakers who get off topic or move to less productive items. Audience, Your role is to focus your questions on community issues, on topics that pertain directly to the office at question. We ask you to listen to the candidates' responses and bear in mind that there are folks in the audience here who have varying degrees of hearing ability. So to the extent that you can keep your side chatter down, that's really helpful. We ask that you hold applause until the end, again, because we have very strictly enforced time limits. We don't want to take candidates' speaking time away because people are applauding or otherwise, expressing emotion. We do have discretion to address any disruptive behavior. Of course, I don't anticipate that. It's not historically happened, and we're happy to have an enthusiastic crowd here tonight. I'm going to let Shelley take over with our policy stuff.
Hi, everyone. I want to make sure everyone understands our process. Questions were submitted online and via email in advance of the event, and we accepted questions obviously as you were coming in, and we will accept questions up until the time a race begins. Do not hold your questions. Questions have to get through a screening process. So don't hold on to an important question for dramatic effect. Make sure that you connect with one of our volunteers in the back. They're holding up an envelope. They are happy to help you complete your question, and they will bring it up here to our question screeners. All the questions have been screened to ensure clarity, lack of bias, compliance with our question criteria. So our question screeners screen everything for compliance, and then they will give our moderator a set of questions. It is the moderator who determines what questions will and will not be asked. Okay, so how our format works is groups of candidates will be invited forward by the race. You're to come up together, be seated. The moderator will announce who is going first, and you will have the option to either give your opening 3-minute comments at the table seated, if that's your preference. You can stand behind the table, or you can come to the podium, if that's your preference. So whatever you're most comfortable with. So you'll have 3 minutes to give your opening remarks. After that, after both people have presented, you'll be seated again, and the moderator will issue the questions, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. You are to respond to the audience. You are not to respond to your opponent. Okay, a little conversation about our empty chair policy. We have 2 policies in play tonight, one at the state level, one at the local level. At the local level, we don't allow what we call an empty chair to appear. That would be where one candidate appears without any others. It's not allowed for a state level race. And so that's going to apply to our U.S. House of Representatives and the Court of Appeals races. We have a local policy that we developed that applies to our local races. So for the county commissioner race that's being presented tonight, if only one candidate appears, we are presenting that race. So hopefully everyone can understand the distinction between the two. I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity now to advise everyone that we were informed this afternoon that one of the individuals who had agreed to appear for the U.S. representative race, Ms. Cross, is unable to be with us. She's ill. And because of that, because Mr. Joyce had never responded, we only had one candidate left, Dr. Polk. And so under the state rules, we're not permitted to present that race. So unfortunately, we had to cancel that. But we wanted to thank Ms. Cross and Dr. Polk both for their willingness to participate. Mr. Spitaleri. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Okay, reminders. I left off a slide about the timekeeper. Timekeeper is here in the front. Candidates will be able to see a graphic display of your time counting down so that you can gauge how much time you have left. So make sure you pay attention to Chris here in the front. We do not distinguish between incumbents and challengers, and we do not permit proxies or stand-ins. All right. Do I have one more? Okay, and I just want to remind everyone that after the forum, there will be time in the adjacent space. Continue the conversation, pick up materials from candidates at that point, and if you need more information, we encourage you to visit our website, vote411.org. Many of the candidates have completed our online voter guide. Lots of information available there. We encourage you to visit that site. We also have things on our website, additional resources, so we encourage you to visit the website. Lots of info there about our candidates. All right, so at this point, I'm going to turn the program over to our moderator, Melanie Scanlon, and we're going to get this going. You don't need this. All right.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Great. So nice to see you here. Thank you so much for coming and joining us to hear from the candidates. I'm Melanie Scanlon. I'll be your moderator, and we are going to start with our, go over tonight's schedule. The U.S. House of Representatives 14 district that we will not be, we don't have any candidates for that race tonight. So our first race will be the U.S. Court of Appeals, the 11th district. We will hear from a representative if they're available today for the Berkshire Schools School District Improvement Levy. There's a Chardon Township Streets, Roads, and Bridges levy. Then we'll hear from the first of the commissioner races and followed by the second one. So we should have some good commentary, good questions from the audience, and lots of participation. So I'd like to start by welcoming up our first race, Mr. Eklund and Ms. Pratt, for the Ohio Court of Appeals 11th District. I'm squeaking. Is it your microphone? Just say testing. Testing? Okay, thank you both for being here. Ms. Pratt, maybe start with you. You can come to the podium to give your 3-minute remarks, or you're more than welcome to stay at your chair, whatever's most comfortable. You can turn on your microphone by hitting the bottom button. And our timer is right there. As soon as you begin, your 3 minutes will start.
My name is Shelley Pratt. I'm running for 11th District Court of Appeals. I am currently a Trumbull County resident. I live in the city of Hubbard with my husband of 22 years.
Hold on real quick, Ms. Pratt. We can't hear you. So maybe, Ms. Pratt, you too. You can hold it.
Okay. I live in the city of Hubbard with my husband
Okay. There you go.
of 22 years and my 2 daughters. I'm currently an assistant prosecuting attorney in Columbiana County. I attended Youngstown State University and the University of Akron School of Law, where I received my Juris Doctorate in 1998. After passing the bar, I decided to pursue a career in public service to learn the ins and outs of practicing law, as a lot of new graduates do. And I was fortunate enough to get a job at Northeast Ohio Legal Services in downtown Warren, Ohio, where I was an advocate for domestic violence victims. And while I was there, I learned more than just the ins and outs of practicing law. I learned that I really found public service fulfilling. That led me to eventually taking a position with the Ashtabula County Prosecutor's Office. And there I was hired as the office's sole appellate prosecutor. I was in charge of all the office's criminal appeals, not just criminal matters, but dependency and neglect matters as well, and oddly enough, delinquent real estate tax appeals. I argued before the 11th District Court of Appeals and numerous times before the Supreme Court of Ohio. In addition to those duties, I filled in municipal court and common pleas court, and I presented cases to the grand jury. And during that time, I discovered that I enjoyed prosecution, and that is how I would like to serve the public and spend my career. And I served the people of Ashtabula County for 17 years before I moved on in 2022 to my current position in Columbiana County, where again I'm an assistant prosecuting attorney. I write the majority of the office's criminal appeals. I practice before the 7th District Court of Appeals, as well as the Supreme Court of Ohio. And I also have a part-time municipal court docket in Columbiana County Municipal Court. I decided that I would like to run for judge of the Court of Appeals because I would like to expand my public service commitment and use my appellate experience to benefit a larger portion of my community. I feel that an appellate court judge needs a strong appellate background, and that is exactly what I've earned during my nearly 2 decades as an appellate prosecutor. I am familiar with appellate procedure as well as the constitutions of the United States and the state of Ohio and the laws derived from them. I understand, the need to follow those, and that decisions of the trial courts, which an appellate court reviews, impact people's lives and their rights. And if elected, I would fully follow the Constitution, the laws of the United States, fairly and impartially, as well as treat people with respect and dignity.
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. Mr. Eklund, when you're ready, you can turn on your microphone. Thank you. It's on. Hot mic.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Eklund. I am one of your judges on the 11th District Court of Appeals today, and I'm seeking re-election. And I thank you all for allowing me to be with you today. I cannot, in 3 minutes, say anything to any of you that would convince you that I am worthy of re-election to the court. I don't think. You're too discerning for that. But I'm hoping that a 3-minute, very fast review of the last 44 years of my experience, my accomplishments, and my commitment to our community will suffice, and that you'll find it worthy. On the bench, since I've been on the court, I've been elected by my colleagues, the judges, to be the administrative and presiding judge of the court. I've twice been appointed by the Supreme Court of Ohio to serve on 2 cases in that court to help deliberate, participate, and hear the arguments and decide those 2 cases in the very short time I've been on the court. Before that, I spent 42 years as a lawyer practicing complex civil and criminal litigation from coast to coast and literally from border to border here in the United States. And for that, I was named in a peer-reviewed publication called The Best Lawyers in America for the work that I did. And I was also named an Ohio super lawyer in that capacity. My wife and I live in Munson Township, where we raised our 2 children and now enjoy our 7 grandchildren, including 2 sets of grand-twins. If my chest puffs up a little, you'll know why. I believe a judge's job, a judge's duty, is to safeguard the constitutions and laws of the United States and the state of Ohio. And that means safeguard them and apply them fairly so that the rights and responsibilities of all citizens are upheld and enforced. I do not believe that a judge's job is to rewrite the Constitution, amend the Constitution, bend it to their will, or anything of the sort, but rather to uphold it and apply it. And I promise to you and to anyone that that is what I have done, that is what I will continue to do, and there is nothing that would deter me from that restraint, which is so terribly important when we're talking about any function of our government. Thank you all again so much for allowing me to be with you tonight, and for all of you being here. It's a level of engagement that we don't see that much. Thank you.
Mr. Eklund. Okay, Ms. Pratt, I'm going to start with our first question to you. What do you consider your greatest strengths for the role and your weaknesses for the office? Okay, you'll have 1 minute as soon as you start.
I would say my greatest strength is my experience. As I've said, I've had 2 decades of appellate experience, and as far as a weakness, I would say a weakness would be deciding the tough cases, the serious crime with harm to children, things like that. But in my career, I deal with that quite often, and I think I know I can handle that.
Thank you. Mr. Eklund, same question to you. What do you consider your greatest strengths for the office and your weaknesses?
I think my greatest strength is probably 3 things. Strengths. My depth and breadth of experience, both in the criminal and the civil world. Because, the criminal cases get all the attention. It's the civil cases that can sometimes be very complicated. And when you're the administrative judge of the court, you're responsible for the courts promptly, not just fairly, but promptly getting those cases decided. And they can drag on for a while, but you all know, justice delayed is justice denied, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. So I have the experience in both areas to bring those cases to bear in a timely fashion. Secondly, my experience in the community, both as a state senator for nearly 10 years and in the other organizations with which I've been associated, has demonstrated to me the importance of being compassionate in your community. And I think that's a great strength as well. Greatest weakness, if I have time? No?
No.
Well,
You conveniently ran out of time.
Use your imagination, all right? I'll leave that to them.
I will direct our next question right to you if you don't mind standing.
Okay.
If you could make just one change to the judicial system, what would it be and why? If you could make just one change to the judicial system, we're giving you a magic wand, what would it be and why?
All right. I will tell you, in Ohio, I would remove the party affiliation from judges' names on the general election ballot. I think the judiciary is best, to the extent we can, and of course, we can't completely, right? Divorce party affiliation from a candidate, no matter what. But I think it lessens the exercise of electing judges who are sworn to be impartial. And it sends, perhaps to some people, maybe not to you, the wrong message that somehow a party affiliation bears upon their decision making.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pratt, same question to you. If you could make just one change to the judicial system, what would it be and why?
I believe our judicial system needs to be more efficient. I think courts often move slow, and if elected, I would make it a priority to render decisions not only competently but efficiently as well.
Thank you. I'm going to direct this next question back at you, if that's okay. What injustice have you witnessed either in or outside of the courtroom, and what was your response to that injustice?
I often witness, in my experience as a prosecutor, I often witness injustice in the sense where a victim doesn't get the type of services they need to get them the assistance to come to court and be advocated for. So a lot of times I think victims suffer an injustice when they are not able to get either mental health help or whatever they need to give them the strength to come to court so that we can prosecute those cases. So that would be the greatest injustice I see, lack of help for victims.
Mr. Eklund, same question to you. What injustice have you witnessed either in or outside of the courtroom, and what was your response, if any, to that injustice?
Injustice. We all recognize, I hope, that the injustice suffered by somebody to another person is the vindication of justice, right? It's very difficult to nail it down because there are always two sides of a story. But I've seen injustice, all right. I see injustice every time I drive into downtown Warren and I see people on the street sleeping over the steam grates on the street. I've seen injustice when I think about the extent to which the General Assembly sometimes ignores those people and ignores victims of crime, or when you have to rule on a case that eventually leaves a victim without the rights that they otherwise have under the law. And that happens sometimes. And it's not the fault of the judiciary. It's oftentimes the fault of the legislature or a society
Thank you,
that's blind
Mr.
to what's going
Eklund.
on.
Thank you very much. Okay, hopefully a little bit of a softer question to end with for both of you. And
happier one, I
a
hope.
happier one, yes. And Mr. Eklund, I'm going to start with you on this one. Can you share some of your judicial role models and why you admire them?
Sure. One of my judicial role models is a fellow by the name of John Marshall Harlan. Anybody ever heard of him? Some people have. John Marshall Harlan. He was a United States Supreme Court Justice in the late 19th century. And it was a time when the Supreme Court of the United States was a pretty conservative bunch of people and pretty rote adherence to precedent, some of which went way back, and sometimes it was interesting. Issues like child labor, the women's right to vote, all sorts of social issues. And they kind of towed the line to the old way of things. John Marshall Harlan, when it came to race relations, race equality, child labor, numerous things, he was the sole dissenter, and he dissented in many, many cases in a way that ultimately was proven by later courts to be the way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Eklund. I know a minute is not enough time. We could listen to both of your answers all night, but thank you so much.
I'm
Miss-
sorry.
No. Ms. Pratt, same question to you. Who are your judicial role models and why?
As a woman lawyer, I would have to say Sandra Day O'Connor and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As a young girl, these were my role models. This was who I wrote book reports about, and that's why I wanted to be a lawyer. And whenever I've experienced difficult times in my career, I would think of stories I've heard from these women and how they faced adversity in their careers, and it kind of gave me the strength to carry on.
Thank you so much. Mr. Eklund, Ms. Pratt, thank you both for being here with us today. We appreciate your addressing the audience questions, and just thank you so much for your time. Do we have a representative here to talk about the Berkshire School District tax levy, a 2.5 mil renewal for school buildings? No? Okay. Do we have someone from Chardon Township here to discuss the tax levy 3 mills for streets, roads, and bridges? We invited both to be here, but we know schedules can be busy. Anyone? No? Okay. Then we will keep moving. We will move on to the Geauga County Commissioner term commencing January 3rd, 2025. This race we have two with us today, Nancy MacArthur and Ralph Spitaleri. Ms. MacArthur and Mr. Spitaleri, please feel free to come up and take your seats when you're ready. We'll start with each of your 3-minute addresses, which you can do either at your table or you can come to the podium, whichever you prefer. Mr. Spitaleri, I'm going to start with you. So if you don't mind turning on your microphone and getting it in good position so we can hear you, as soon as you start,
Okay.
we'll start the time. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ralph Spitaleri. I've been a Geauga County Commissioner for the last 12 years. I have been serving very proudly, humbly in that position. I bring a whole different dynamic to that office, as I am 33-year police officer. Currently hold position of Chief Deputy with the Portage County Sheriff's Office. Just brings a whole different dynamic as far as what are the crimes, what are the situations we're dealing with that are keeping our county safe. I have the ability of working with our law enforcement here locally, our sheriff, and creating good, solid foundation for us to be able to remain our county residents and taxpayers and our kids safe. I'm also a small business owner in this county, own 2 businesses, been in business for over 25 years. So it gives me a perspective of exactly what it is and what the challenges are for a small business owner in the county, of what they face on a daily basis, whether it's tax challenges, making payroll, dealing with employees, dealing with customers, dealing with all the facets of small business. And all that basically relates back to my position as a county commissioner, to try to work with those people that also face a lot of those same challenges and help to groom them, build them, support them, and make our county that much more stronger for businesses to thrive. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, you know, what is important to you? Is your safety, your economics, your taxes, the value of your homes, and what keeps all of those things going? What keeps all those going is business, safety, law enforcement within your community, and good government. I've taken our county 12 years ago that we were almost $4.5–5 million in the hole, to a point that we basically are being told by our budget commission that we have to spend it down because we have too much. I don't necessarily agree with that, because we can't predict what the future holds in our county. We're doing great right now. Things could change. We could have all kinds of issues in our future, but we are solid. And I'm proud to say that, you know, under a lot of this, that I have been their longest serving commissioner that's currently as county commissioner, that it's been under my watch that I've been able to make those changes. So, thank you, and anything else?
Perfect timing. Thank you, Mr. Spitaleri. Ms. MacArthur, would you like to? Okay, you just have to bring your microphone if you don't mind. This one's not quite as loud as we would like. And just turn it on at the bottom. As soon as you start.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight, and to the Geauga County League of Women Voters for putting this candidates forum and the guide they produce for all of us voters. My name is Nancy MacArthur, and I'm running for County Commissioner in the Republican primary on March 19th. A few reasons why I'm running. The biggest one is that Geauga County residents deserve to have a full-time commissioner working for them, putting Geauga County first. If I'm elected, I will work full-time for you, regularly attend the weekly meetings, as well as board-appointed meetings, not just send a proxy. I will be at many county events as well. In addition, I plan to collaborate with other county elected officials to help solve problems, help to unify our county, keep the county budget and expenditures as low as possible without sacrificing the quality of our services that we as residents here need and want. If elected, I would like to bring back recorded commissioner meetings so that residents know what is happening, and to provide better transparency and communication through our website and possibly a countywide newsletter. I have the experience and the knowledge to get these things done. Most of my adult life, I have worked in the private sector in business banking, business development, human resources, and marketing. My 12 years as a Chardon City Councilman had given me a great background in local government to help manage a budget and work with my peers. As a councilman, I was chair of the committees these following committees: Finance, where I reviewed our monthly expenditures; the Audit Committee; Legislative Committee, that's right, I was actually a legislator; Economic Development Committee; Charter Review Committee, and I also served for 5 years on Planning Commission. My many years on City Council helped to produce better city services and a host of physical amenities in Chardon, like the Maple Highlands Trail Bike Path, the Heritage House on Chardon Square, and a revitalization district to help restaurants on the square acquire liquor licenses. Being a fiscal conservative, I spearheaded a performance audit which identified about $500,000 a year in savings, most of which we implemented, including adopting some best practices. My strong sense of business, problem solving, and negotiation skills, and my civic duty to make my community better are something that I bring to the table. This is a job interview to hire someone to work for you. This job pays about $87,000 a year, plus benefits and pension. It's a serious job that should not be part-time. If you decide to hire me on March 19th, I will work for you full-time. It's time for a change. Please vote on March 19th. I am Nancy MacArthur, running for your county commissioner. My website is votemacArthur.com, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, both of you, right on time, thank you. We received a lot of questions for this race, so I'm just going to jump right in them, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Spitaleri, if you don't mind. Commissioners have appointment authority for many boards and commissions in the county. Would you support a clearly communicated process for appointments, and what would that look like if you do?
We already have a process in place. We do public postings for all of our different board positions. Unfortunately, we do not get an incredible groundswell of people applying, but we've put articles in the newspaper, we've put postings on our website, and those positions are continuously being posted. We just posted one for our planning commission that had been posted since the end of December, and we've had one applicant that applied for it. So as far as our process, we are trying to do the best that we can do with the means that we have. But at the end of the day, there's just a lot of people that just are not really engaged, unfortunately, in politics and into their government process. And it's really hard to get volunteers. And we're seeing it across the board with volunteers in all aspects, less and less and less. So the process is not flawed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. MacArthur, same question to you. Commissioners have appointment authority for many boards and commissions in the county. Would you support a clearly communicated process for appointments, and what would that look like?
Yes, so as someone who actually applied for planning commission at one point, and it was a very frustrating experience. I didn't think the form online was very user-friendly. I don't recall how I knew that there was an opening. It might have been through the newspaper, but I think communication could be certainly a lot better. I think the website could be more robust. And I think the people in the commissioner's office that know about these openings could make these things better known to the public. I was never asked if I wanted to be on planning commission, and I've got a lot of experience, and I was not obviously chosen to be that representative, but I certainly had the experience to do so. So I think a lot of it is just communication, making things more apparent, using social media and a lot of other ways to reach people that we don't currently do.
Thank you. Next question, I'm going to start with you, Ms. MacArthur. Can you describe the advantages and or disadvantages of Geauga County belonging to NOACA?
Wow, our favorite subject. Well, unfortunately, most of the dollars that come into NOACA are federal dollars, and they're coming back to us. I consider Geauga County a donor county. We send a lot of tax dollars out to the federal government and to the state, and we don't see a lot of it coming back sometimes. So my understanding is in order to receive those federal funds, we have to belong to some type of an NGO, like NOACA. There are some other ones, I think Ashtabula belongs to a different one, but there has to be some kind of vehicle to be able to acquire these funds. And I can tell you on city council, when I was there, we applied for, we had a shovel-ready project, and that was the bike path. And I worked on it for 10 years, people. It took a long time. And we had to buy up property, and there were a lot of different steps involved, but, you know, they made that possible. So without NOACA, we wouldn't have the bike path. We wouldn't have a lot of things, but there's some aspects of it that aren't particularly likable, but
Thank you.
it's the only thing we have.
Thank you very much.
So my position with NOACA is this: for probably the betterment of almost 11 years, I have taken a, talk about people saying about proxies. NOACA refuses to allow a full representation of the county commissioners in Geauga County and the engineer. So back in probably 2012, 2013, I had a long conversation with our county engineer as far as the majority of what happens in NOACA is supposed to be about our roads. And with the county commission or county engineer, Joe could tell it, we pretty much had an agreement that he would be my voice and he would be my representative. He was not permitted to be able to be represented there. So 3 county commissioners for all 5 of the other counties are represented by their commissioners and their engineer. Because of the population that we have here in Geauga County, they would not allow us to do that. So as far as my...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to switch topics a little bit, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Spitaleri.
Yes.
Geauga County has cost-sharing agreements with other counties for public health, public transit, juvenile detention, and waste management. How would or should we be measuring the effectiveness of these arrangements in costs and services, and how is this data communicated to residents?
So I think that there's two of the 3 there that you have, or 4 that you've stated, that we really, it's too early to know with the Department of Health with Lake Counties and also with our Department of Transportation with Lake County to really give you an honest assessment of that, because it's been less than a year. As far as the solid waste, 100% that is a totally solid relationship that we have with Trumbull County. I don't know how many of you have been up to the new solid waste center that we put up off of behind our new commissioners center there, but we worked very hard to do that, and there is a lot of funding that we are sharing with Trumbull County on that to make that possible. And that was, you know, $1 million plus operation for our residents. And you know, as far as the other one that you had spoke of with the juvenile detention center, every day I say we're wasting money with that. It's a money drain for us.
Thank you. Ms. MacArthur, how should we or could we be measuring the effectiveness of these agreements that we have with other counties for cost sharing, public health, public transit, juvenile detention, waste management? So how should we be measuring the effectiveness, and how is data communicated to county residents?
When you say data, what do you?
The effectiveness, like how are we
Or is it being reported
evaluating
back to
it?
us?
Yes, and
Okay.
sharing that with the
Yeah, I mean, anytime you do these things, you need to have some return on investment, and there has to be accountability. So I'm not against sharing services with other counties as long as there's some benefits to us for cost savings and, you know, quality of service. I don't really know. Again, Commissioner Spitaleri said that, you know, some of these things are too early to know, and these are some questions I've asked as well regarding the Board of Health and or regarding you know, Geauga Transit. We don't have a great transit system here, unfortunately, and it's difficult to provide some of those services to people that don't have a car. And then as far as the solid waste, I think that's a great facility. I'm very happy to see that we have that. I don't really know a whole lot about the juvenile detention. I know that it's a joint venture, and you know, so you need to be able to look at some of that data. I don't know who's doing the reporting, but if we're spending more money there and we can do it better ourselves, we should probably do it here.
Thank you. Okay, this is around public comment. So the Open Public Meetings Act, or Sunshine Law, does not require that an official meeting allow public comment. Do you feel there is value in permitting public comment, and how would you structure such public comment if elected or in office? And I'll start with you, Ms. MacArthur.
Well, I think this is something that could certainly be changed at the Commissioner's office. As a council person, we always had an agenda item on our agendas to allow for public comment. It didn't have to be necessarily germane to the subject being discussed by anybody on council. And you know, people want to be heard. You know, one of the problems we have currently with the commissioner's office is you have to be able to go to the meetings during the day. So it's very onerous to be able to get questions answered at times. But I would like to see a separate agenda item on the agenda for public comment. And then, of course, if there are questions during the course of the meeting, and I believe that those are being allowed now because I've asked some myself, I think that's good. And I think, you know, the public wants to be able to ask these questions, and it needs to be transparent and accessible to anybody who lives here and pays taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Spilleri.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks.
As far as public comment, I think that we go above and beyond the part of allowing public comment, because multiple times during the course of our meeting, we will take questions during our meeting. If somebody has an issue that they're not clear on, or they have a question while we have one of our department heads up at the table discussing issues, that's always a conversation that we engage with our public at all times. At the end of the meeting, we do it. Every time that we ask, are there any public comments, and are there any public comments? And we don't shut anybody down. We basically take whatever comments it is. So I'm not really sure where this is being spoken of that we're not doing it. It doesn't have to be an agenda item on our paper, because we as county commissioners serve you. And that meeting is not our meeting, that meeting is your meeting that we're basically partaking in. And that's just how we do it all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This question is around relationships, professional relationships. What strengths, I'll start with you, Mr. Spilleri. What strengths do you bring to build effective relationships with fellow commissioners, other county officials, county agencies, and staff?
You know, I think that it's multifaceted for me. One of it being that I've been there for 12 years and just have had a lot of contacts. Number two, in the law enforcement world, there is such an enormous amount of attention right now with crime. Our fentanyl deaths have been at an all-time high, and this is not a problem that we solve just here in Geauga County. This is across the board, whether we're working with other law enforcement, whether we're working with other prosecutors. This is something that every day we are combating on our streets. I spent 5 days down in Cochise County, not for photo opportunities to be able to say I was at the border, but rather I was there for 5 days volunteering in an enforcement effort from 6 o'clock at night till about 4 in the morning. My unit alone, we took in custody 182 illegal immigrants. It's real, and it's coming here. It's here already. If we want to be blind to it, be blind to it. But I'm telling you, we have an issue, and it's very important to understand it.
Thank you. Last question, and I'm going to start with you, Ms. MacArthur. If Geauga County were granted federal or state funds... Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped you. I want to hear your answer. So I'm going to repeat it. Let me go back. What strengths do you build to bring effective relationships with fellow commissioners, other county officials, county agencies, and staff? And I apologize. Thank you.
No, that's okay. You know, I'm blessed to be able to have a lot of relationships with almost all the elected officials here, and I talk to them all on a regular basis, and many times I call them and ask them questions as a taxpayer, as someone who's interested in how things are running or going, and I have a lot of questions for a lot of them, and I have communication with almost all of them, including our judges. So I think it's really important to be able to, you know, have a good working relationship with all of our other elected officials. I was most recently on the Board of Elections, and we had an ongoing lawsuit with the commissioners. So one of my goals was to make sure that we resolved our differences. So I sat down, talked to our legal counsel and the other people on the board, and we were able to get a settlement agreement, a lot of which I wrote myself. And we sat down at the table with our lawyers and Commissioner Lennon, and we worked out our differences. So shortly after this election, we'll be in the new building.
Thank you. Okay, now last question, and this one is around grant money, and I'm going to start with you, Ms. MacArthur. If Geauga County were granted federal or state funds earmarked for environmental projects, such as clean water initiatives, what would be your response?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that would be your response? Wow. Okay, you don't even need a minute. You can have your full minute if you would like.
Well, I mean, I as the mayor of the city of Chardon, I belong to the Chardon River watershed organization, and, you know, there were a lot of things that were being discussed. We have the Chagrin River that comes through Geauga. We've got a lot of, you know, erosion at times and things, you know, were being discussed about repairing setbacks and all those kinds of interesting things. So, you know, we do have some issues here and there. I don't think there are anything major going on here with environmental things, but, you know, they can crop up. So I think belonging in that partnership with Chagrin River Watershed is a great partnership, and we need to maintain that. And if they want to give us some federal money to make things better here, I say that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spitaleri, do you want me to repeat the question, or are you
Nope,
ready to go? Okay.
I think that thank you is unfortunately the common political answer to this, and it's not always the answer, because many federal grants come with a lot of strings attached to them. So you need to really pay attention to what your grants are going to be, because the restrictions that they could place on you could be everlasting and into perpetuity. So it's nice when somebody's dabbling, $1 million bills in front of your face, and you're saying thank you. Don't say thank you too fast until you really look into what you're getting, because you don't know what you're actually getting. And what I can tell you is this: as far as what we have done within our county here, we've taken grant programs for the Chardon Township situation, where we got some funding for that. We just finished a state funding project where we actually we're revitalizing something right here in the Bainbridge Township area, that we're going to be doing renovation of a reclamation of an old shooting range. So there are programs out there, but you just have to be really careful and cautious what you're getting into.
Thank you. Ms. MacArthur, Mr. Spitaleri, thank you both so much on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the community for answering questions. Thank you for being here. And our second of two commissioner races, Geauga County Commissioner, term commencing January 2nd, 2025. We have Carolyn Brakey and Walter Claypool here today. Thank you both for being here. And Mr. Claypool, I'm going to start with you for your 3-minute opening remarks. You're more than welcome to do them from your table there. You're more than welcome to come to the podium, whatever you'd prefer. And we'll start as soon as you start. Thank you. Yeah.
My throat's a little
No
raw,
problem.
so I apologize. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. It's always fun, and I enjoy it. My name's Skip Claypool, and I'm running for Geauga County Commissioner. Campaigning often looks like a popularity contest, but it really shouldn't be. It should be more of a job interview, I think, and that was already mentioned. Nancy, you're right. Shouldn't we pick the most qualified candidate? Based on the criteria, I think I'm the most qualified candidate, and I'll tell you 3 reasons why that is. First of all, I'm the most experienced. I was a business executive for decades. I was a county commissioner. I was a township trustee. I've served on several county boards. I literally could walk into the county commissioner office tomorrow and be functional. As a commissioner, along with Mr. Spitaleri and Mr. Lennon, we did not raise taxes. We paid off the county debt. We dealt with a number of complex issues. I worked hard to improve Geauga County during my term. I drafted a concept plan, I think Mr. Spitaleri will agree with this, to centralize the county offices and for the recycling center. I presented those to Mr. Spitaleri and to Mr. Lennon. They accepted the plans, we moved those forward, and today they've been built. Both I think are delivering value to the county. I would like to have been involved with the implementation, because I think it could have added value to the cost and the implementation process. As a commissioner, I was a budget hawk. I asked a lot of questions. People didn't like that. And I worked hard to ensure that the tax dollars were spent effectively. I don't think we have enough scrutiny on our taxes, or on our budgeting. Excuse me. This is a Republican primary. This is number 2. Republicans have subscribed to a certain set of values. I believe Republican candidates should prove that they align with those Republican platform and values. I have the strongest credentials, Republican-wise, in this race. I voted in every primary over the last 20 years as a Republican, and I worked hard for candidates during each of those sessions. I want to thank Mr. Dvorak for handing out the proof that I've voted for about 30 years now as a Republican. And so, and then there's no proof of that. So, without a doubt, I am the strongest Republican candidate in this race. After the 2008 election, I decided to get more involved with politics. So I began doing a lot of research. There's very few people in this room that do as much homework as I do, for a variety of reasons. How many of you know about the Senate Select Committee on Fair Housing, which is talking about overriding our zoning? That was a discussion in the Planning Commission meeting. NOACA is trying to create a climate action plan that's going to change our lives. I'm experienced, I have the right values, I'm passionate about Geauga County, and I'm the best candidate for commissioner in this race. I had to cut some things out.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Should we accept?
Oh, you're right.
How do I turn this on?
Just hold the button. Yep, that's it.
Green?
Yep.
That's good. Okay.
That's good.
Should we accept government taking more of our paychecks without delivering more to the people? Should we accept government treating parents as non-essential in the health and education decisions of their own children? Should we accept political infighting, FBI raids, corruption charges, and politicians who create problems instead of fixing them? I'm Carolyn Brakey, and I'm running for Geauga County Commissioner because I think we can do better. I think we can defend freedoms, protect paychecks, and defeat dysfunction in Geauga County. So a little bit about me. I'm a wife. I'm a mom to 8-year-old twins who better be in bed right now, and I'm an attorney with an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. My husband and I were entrepreneurs, and we run several businesses in this county related to energy, including Brakey Energy, which my father-in-law started in '99 to serve manufacturers in Middlefield. I'm also the current president of the Board of Health. And when it comes to your paychecks, I believe that government exists to serve the people, not the other way around. And many of our residents right now, they're struggling just to fill their gas tanks and their grocery carts, and taxes continue to increase. But I think your money belongs in your pockets, and I want to fight to return it to you. Concerning your freedoms, I believe government has a duty to protect our God-given rights of life, liberty, property. That's why I stepped up to serve on the Board of Health in the first place. When children were forcibly masked, I fought to defend parental rights and end mask mandates in Geauga County schools. Our guidance was the first of its kind in the state, and it triggered this domino effect of freedom across Ohio. And then finally, regarding dysfunction in government, I've tackled challenges in my current role, many thought insurmountable, reforming Geauga Public Health into a department built on efficiency and on restraint. And I'm ready to bring the same problem solving to defeat dysfunction in county government. I know conflict, it's not accomplishment. And contrarianism, it's not conservatism. For the last year, I've focused on preparing for the job, meeting voters, which ranges from attending weekly commissioner meetings to informal community events. And while I have a microphone in front of me right now, I've actually done far more listening than I have speaking. And that's what I've built this campaign on, not on a personal agenda or some grudge, but on feedback from good people who call our county home. And I will continue to collaborate with anyone who wants to help Geauga become an even better place to live, to work, and to raise a family. I'm Carolyn Brakey, and it would be a great privilege to be your next county commissioner. I'd be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Again, we have lots of questions from the audience, and Ms. Brakey, I'm going to start with you. What actions will you take to ensure Geauga County is a desirable place, both a desirable and affordable place to live? So I'll say that again since I stumbled a little bit. What actions will you take to ensure that Geauga County is both a desirable and affordable place to live?
So I think of Ronald Reagan's famous quote, when it comes to how should government intervene in situations like that, right? Which is, he says the most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And so I think what makes
Geauga a great place, it has nothing to do with government. It has to do with the people that live here. We live in a community built on trust, where people can put eggs out in front of their house and they're not worried about you stealing them or stealing the money. And I think it's a beautiful place to live. So I think that's what makes it a desirable place. As far as affordable is, that's a tax issue, right? And that's just keeping taxes low. So I think any sort of government program that tries to make things better, that's not my thing. I think that tends to take away what makes Geauga great already.
Thank you. Mr. Claypool, what actions will you take to ensure Geauga County is both a desirable and affordable place to live?
So, to a large extent, I agree with Carolyn with this difference. There are things that we can do to ensure that Geauga County is a great place to live. It is a great place to live. I chose to live here. I didn't have to live here. I could have lived any place in the region. But my wife and I years ago looked at Geauga County and said, this is where we want to live. It's the right people, it's the right values, it's a rural community. I grew up in a rural community. But there are forces outside of our county that are trying to change our county. The Senate Select Committee that I referenced is an organization or an effort actually at the state level to change how we live. They want to overturn our ability to control our own zoning. We have NOACA who's creating a climate action plan whose aim is to change the way we live. As government, within the Commissioner's office, we have the ability to change some of those outcomes. We place people on the Geauga County Planning Commission who develops plans and a county plan and a template for
Thank you.
things.
Thank you. I know.
There's not enough time.
There is
We
not
get into
enough
this.
time, but our community members also want to get home and, do what they have to do. So thank you for that. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Claypool, for this next question. Commissioners have appointment authority for many boards and commissions in the county. Would you support a clearly communicated process for appointments, and what would that look like?
So, as Mr. Spitaleri said, I actually agree with him. The Commissioner's office has always been pretty good at this. The challenge gets to be people, the available people who are interested in serving on whatever the committee happens to be. So there is a process, it gets posted, we identify to the community through the newspaper or through verbal communications and so on and so forth, the availability of those positions. But something that everybody needs to keep in mind, each of those positions have a unique, you don't just put anybody on a particular position, because there are outcomes that you have to monitor and make sure that these committees are producing a quality output. The Planning Commission, for example, you want to make sure that people on that Planning Commission understand something about planning, they understand something about zoning, they live in the community, they understand what their community is all about, what the culture is all about, and so on and so forth. So there's various factors that are considered, but the county's been very good at that, I believe. It was when I was in there, and I think it continues to be good.
Thank you. Perfect time. Ms. Brakey.
So I can compare what I've seen so far attending commissioners' meetings for the past year versus the appointment process I went through for the Board of Health. So there is an open seat right now on the Board of Health if anyone is interested in applying. And the process for that is you submit a resume, you submit a cover letter, you do an interview with a select committee, and then you go in front of what's called the Health District Advisory Council, one township trustee, one commissioner, or one trustee from each township, one the mayor, and then one commissioner. And you do an interview, do a presentation. It's very open to the public. The deliberation is open to the public, so you can hear why they choose who they choose. And so I've just heard, I think the Board of Mental Health had a open seat since I've been going the past year, and it was just a few names were thrown out, there was a motion, and that was it. And so I personally would like to see a little more transparency on that process.
Thank you very much. I'm going to direct this question to you first, Ms. Brakey. Can you describe the advantages and or disadvantages of Geauga County belonging to NOACA?
Oh, I feel like Mr. Claypool should have gotten this one first. This is his thing. Disadvantages, I'll go first. So the disadvantages is I feel like Geauga County is in a bit of a shotgun wedding with Geauga and the city of Cleveland, in which
We kind of have to play nice, and we get these woke policies shoved down our throats in order for us to try to claw back some of our tax dollars. And so that's the biggest disadvantage, which is a big disadvantage. However, we have to be part of some sort of MPO or metropolitan planning organization in order to get back our gas tax for infrastructure. So there is an economy of scale in having an organization the size of NOACA, and then those costs can be spread out among the member counties.
Thank you very much. Mr. Claypool. I could repeat the question. Can you describe some of the advantages and or disadvantages of Geauga County belonging to NOACA?
So I got about an hour
Yeah.
that I want to talk to you about. on
Still only
this.
get a minute.
But let me just say this. There is no advantage of being in NOACA. There's a requirement. There's nobody in this room that knows NOACA better than I do. There is no advantage. There would be an advantage, however, if we formed an MPO with Lake County. If we formed a Lake County MPO, which is permissible under the law, 23 CFR 405, I think it is, we would go through a process, and we would control the tax dollars. It's the 18.5 cents a gallon tax dollars that come back to us, and we would be in control of our destiny. Right now, the big disadvantages are NOACA is way off the reservation. There are a council on governments, and that council on governments just gets to decide whatever it wants to do. So it's creating a climate action plan, it's creating a regional-wide land use plan, it's creating a transportation plan, all of which are urban-based, not rural-based, and so it's a real disadvantage to us.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Claypool, I'm going to start with you for this one.
We'll give this one to Carol.
I get to pick. So you get to go first. Geauga County has cost-sharing agreements with other counties for public health, public transit, juvenile detention, and waste management. As Mr. Spitaleri pointed out, some of these are newer arrangements, but even with that, how would or should we be measuring the effectiveness of these arrangements, and how do we communicate the effectiveness to the public?
So first of all, you can't bundle them all together. They're all different creatures. So the Portage County Juvenile Detention Center is already measured. There's a whole set of metrics that are used to determine its effectiveness. And there's two boards that get together, Portage County and Geauga County, to take a look at that all the time. And so the same thing with the Waste Management District. The Waste Management District works really well together. And there's metrics which are actually state governed that determine what the outcomes are. With the new Lake County agreement, we have no idea what the performance on that's going to be. It's too new, and I've got a lot of questions. I'm not a big happy about that agreement. I've not made any bones about that for a variety of reasons. But you can't take all of these organizations and bundle them up in the same pile, because each of them are unique and need to be measured, and the outcomes have to be determined separately. So, I mean, I would take each of those organizations, and we could talk about the current metrics and how they could be measured, but we don't have enough time, and I'm out of time.
Thank you. Ms. Brakey.
Can I hear the question?
Yeah, of course. Geauga County has cost-sharing agreements and waste management. Some of them are newer than others, but how would or should we be measuring the effectiveness of these arrangements, and how should this data be communicated to the county residents?
So I think what we should look at is Geauga's sovereignty. We should be looking at what the savings are. We should be looking at what the benefits are, including opportunities for grants. And so I can kind of go through for you how we made this decision with the Board of Health to enter a cooperative agreement with Lake. So we were looking at a looming budget shortfall, and we basically had three choices, because one of those choices was not do nothing. So what we could have done was we could have raised taxes, and if you know me, that's an absolute no-go, especially as a first step. The second option would have been to do a full merger, like what happened with Geauga Transit and Lake Transit. This is a full merger of boards, a full merger of assets, and that loses Geauga's sovereignty. So what we did with the Board of Health is a cost savings arrangement where we were saving sharing upper management personnel, and this has already cost taxpayers $500,000 in the first 9 months.
Thank you.
Can we come back and have a debate on that particular issue?
Well, Not tonight.
I gotta go home. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is my jamming time.
You can
so.
arrange it and send out invitations. Okay, Ms. Brakey, this question will go to you. Can you share what strengths you bring to build effective relationships with fellow commissioners, other county officials, county agencies, and staff?
So I've been campaigning for almost a year now. And so I am a marathon runner, so I know how to pace myself, and I can see the finish line right now. And over that past year, I've built a lot of relationships. I've had a lot of meetings. I've met with county department heads. I've had a lot of productive conversations there. I think I have every county official's number in my cell phone, and I see many of them right now, and if I call them or text them, they pick up the phone, which I think is important for relationships. I've also had a lot of meetings just with nonprofit leaders in our county and some of our major business leaders, and just asking them questions about what they want to see different in county government. And as I mentioned in my 3 minutes, I've been listening a lot, and I've been building a lot of relationships, and so I think that's going to be an asset when I enter the commissioner's office.
Thank you very much. Do you want the question repeated, Mr. Claypool?
Yes.
Okay. What strengths do you bring to build effective relationships with fellow commissioners, other county officials, county agencies, and staff?
Well, first of all, I've already got a relationship with the county commissioner's office and with many of the staff in the county commissioner's office. They used to work for me, and so I know them well, and we get along pretty well. Same thing with county offices. I've been worked with the auditor or prosecutor or other county offices for quite some time, but my practice, generally speaking, and I have a history of this, is being able to work with people in a professional manner well. I did that in the trustee's office, I did that in the county commissioner's office, I did that in my professional life, and so I think I've got a track record of that, and so that speaks for itself.
Thank you. Okay, we're in the home stretch. Final question. And Mr. Claypool, I'll give you first crack at it. If Geauga County was granted federal or state funds earmarked for environmental projects such as clean water initiatives, what would be your response?
Well, that is a really ambiguous question, because it gives no details. As
I
Ralph
just
was-
read what the-
as
what
Ralph
they
was
give.
saying, there is no right answer to this, because you have to read what the grant requirements are, and those grant requirements will stipulate or dictate whether it's an acceptable grant or not, because there are strings attached, and you don't want to walk into a blind alley with the federal government, because they have stipulations on paybacks. The COVID dollars that the county received, that the townships received, had very specific, very onerous requirements inside of them, and if you didn't follow the letter of the law, you could quickly get yourself into a legal pickle where you're going to have to pay them back all that money. So you have to be very, very careful when you're taking any kind of grants from any organization, federal government, state government, and so forth. So, you know, without details, it's an impossible question to answer.
Thank you. Ms. Brady?
Yeah, I don't have that much to add to that question. I think we pay a lot of taxes here in Geauga, federal, state, local, and I want to claw back as much of that as I can. I think it belongs in our pockets, not in the federal government, not with our state government. I think it belongs here in Geauga County. But I mean, I understand what Mr. Spitarelli is saying, what Mr. Claypool is saying as well, is that there are strings attached, and I'm certainly concerned, you know, whenever you build something, you start a program, there's nothing more permanent, right, than a temporary government program. So I do have concerns about maintaining something that's created by a grant or so forth, but there are issues with clean water in our county. We saw that with Parkman with the salt contamination, and I think that's an utmost importance to people. I believe in small government through and through, but folks should be able to drink clean water.
Thank you. Ms. Brady, Mr. Claypool, thank you both so much for being here with us today, for answering questions from the public. So just a couple of important dates to keep in mind. Mark your calendar. We are already as of yesterday. Early in-person voting at the Board of Elections. Make sure you check on the hours before you leave your house to vote, but please get out and vote, whether it's early in person. Absentee ballots must be postmarked by March 18th, and Election Day is March 19th, so make your plan to vote. Thank you so much for being here today with us. To learn more about the candidates, to read some additional commentary, please visit Vote 411. You can pull up your ballot, you can look at the issues, read about candidates, and you can look at your print guide or our League of Women Voters website. So lots of information, but be sure to make a plan to vote on or before March 19th. So thank you so much for being here, candidates and audience. Have a wonderful night. No.